Hello and welcome to this short tutorial on how to start a job seeker account in Vermont JobLink. First off, we're going to go to the site itself, so please enter in your browser window www.vermontjoblink.com, and when you come to the main page you'll see that you have two options. One is for users who have already registered and you can log in using your username and password. For this case we're going to be looking at setting up a new account. There are several options to creating a new account. The first is up at the very top of the screen. You can see the Job Seeker tab, and if you do the drop down you can see Create an Account. Another spot is here in the middle banner. You see Need an Account, Create One Now, and you have Job Seekers. And then the third option is in the Job Seeker section here. You can click on Learn More, and you'll see again a prompt to either log in or create a new account. In this case, we're going to go ahead and create a new account. So this is the opening screen for the demographics information we're going to need you to enter. And the first thing we're going to ask for is your social security number. The reason we ask for your social security number is so that we can identify any programs, services, or other paid supports that we may be able to offer you, and then track those expenditures through your social security number so that we can report it back to the federal government. So you do have the option of not providing your social security number, but we do encourage you to do so that we can make sure that we have full availability of your eligibility for various programs and services, including training, apprenticeships, and things like that. So if you are okay with doing your social security number, and again, this is behind a secure server, it's all encrypted, so there's no issues of having that information released to anywhere but you. So if you want, you can go ahead and enter your social security number here. I'm just going to use a fake one for the purpose of this. And I'm going to go ahead and enter that again. And then here for date of birth, I'm going to go ahead and use the date picker. I'm going to go ahead and use a fictitious date, but let's just say somebody was born in 1970 and they're May 15th, let's say. So you go ahead and pick that, and you can see it enters that date right in there. And then here in the account information, you're going to want to give yourself a username. So I'm going to say Uncle Hubert is going to be my username. And my password needs to be between 9 and 128 characters, and it can include anything that you want in there. So it can have numbers, letters, special characters. Just remember that all of the passwords are case sensitive. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a password here. I'm just going to say Uncle Hubert 57, and I'm going to do here Uncle Hubert 57. And if you want, you can look to make sure that you've entered them correctly by clicking the show and hide buttons. And you see I did not enter a 7, so I'm going to want to add a 7 there. Make sure that they match. I'm going to show it again. Uncle Hubert 57, Uncle Hubert 57, it's a good match. Now I have a security question. There's several options here. I'm going to use a fictitious mother's maiden name, and I'm going to say it's Smith, just so I can remember it. And then we're going to go into the demographic information around you as an individual. So you're going to put in your first name. In this case, I'm going to do Uncle. I'm going to say my last name is Hubert. My phone, my fax, I won't enter any of those. You do want to put your email address in here for the purposes of this. I'm just going to say test. Oops. At gmail.com. And we're going to go ahead and enter that again to make sure it's correct. And you can see I got it wrong. I'm a terrible typist. So there's test at gmail.com. We're going to go ahead and put in our address. I should say that the reason we want your email address and why it's so important is all of the communication, follow-up, and updates will come to your email, whatever email you identify here. So it's very important that you get your email address in there. Address line 1, we're going to make this up. And we'll say it's in Barre, Vermont. I don't know the zip for Barre, Vermont. we'll guess, oh, 5, 6, 7, 4. Well, we're going to say it's Warren, Vermont then. So there you go. I pulled up the zip and it automatically populated Warren. So if you want, you can just enter your zip. Country is United States. And then there's some quick questions around how you heard about our services or how you found your way to Vermont JobLink. I'm just going to put other in here for now. And then for your convenience, Vermont JobLink saves your data as you go. By clicking submit, you give them permission to save your data. Obviously, you're going to want that. You don't want to have to do this every time. So I'm going to say submit. And now it's giving me some cues where I got it wrong. So the password cannot include my username. It can't include my first name. And it can't include your last name. So we're going to have to come up with something different for a password. So I'm going to try 17 Revolution 75. And again, we can show that to make sure we have it there. And then on confirm, I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to do 17. Again, I can double check it. Make sure they're good. I'm going to go to mother's maiden name. I'm going to say Smith. All the rest of this information was saved, thankfully. And I just have to again do the survey on how I heard about it. And I'm going to say submit. Okay, so now we're brought to a page that gives us a data privacy notice. Feel free to read this and make sure you understand. This is where we describe how we're using your information, your Social Security, and how it's protected. And indeed, you want to make sure that you accept that privacy notice. We're going to require you to do that so that you've acknowledged that you've read that. And then obviously there's some other elements here that you need to read through, non-discrimination clauses and other things. And if you scroll down after reading through all of that, you'll find at the very bottom, you accept the equal opportunity notice, which again is just above it. And then this is an authorization for the release of information. This is where you allow us to release that information for federal reporting and other reasons. It's not for marketing. It is not to release your name to any kind of spams or anything else. This is just internal use for us to be able to use the data that we gather. So you're going to go ahead and click that. And then we're going to have to verify again using our username and password. So this I'm going to do Uncle Hubert. And then my password again was 17 Revolution 75. Make sure I have it right. And I say continue. And now we're going to open a page that asks for some additional, yes, okay, so additional information, some of your personal demographics and things like that. So we're going to go ahead and go through here. These are all data elements that we have to capture for the federal government, so it is something that we do have to request from you. You have your date of birth is there already pre-populated that information. So first and foremost, do I identify as ethnically Hispanic or Latino? In my case, the answer is no. In my case, I'm also white. But obviously for you, any individual is going to enter what is their preference. Also, you do have the option of preferring not to answer any of these racial questions. So you can prefer here not to answer, and down below you can also prefer not to answer there. Here it's asking a question about English as a first language, and it's saying here that it is not your first language. In my case, English is, so I'm going to answer no. Do you prefer to communicate in sign language? The answer for me is no. My sex, again, you can prefer not to answer. In my case, I'm going to answer male. And how many people in your household? This is required. In my household, we have 3. And does a physical or mental impairment limit one or more major life activities? So this is related to disability. In my case, the answer is no. Or, again, you can prefer not to answer. Your current school attendance, and so here I'm not attending school. I have a high school diploma, GED or higher, so I'm going to go ahead and say that. Highest grade level completed, and I'll say that I'm a high school graduate. And highest level of education, and again that was high school graduate, so just basically narrows that down a little bit more. And we have high school certificate attendance completion. Registered apprentice I am not. Have you served on active duty in the military? In my case, the answer is no. And do you have a spouse? Are you the spouse of an active duty service member? In my case, the answer is no again. Looks like I got something wrong here. Please correct the errors below. What is the highest level of education? And it doesn't match the school attendance and highest grade completed. So I have to go back here and make sure that I answered that question correctly. So down here, I'm going to check that again. And here's where I made the mistake. So I said high school certificate of attendance, and what I really should have clicked was high school graduate. So I'm going to go ahead and say next. Saving my changes. So now I'm into the next screen, more demographic information. Are you the spouse or other family caregiver of a wounded, ill, or injured active duty service member? In my case, the answer is no. I'm going to say next. Here's a farm worker status questions. Are you a migrant or seasonal farm worker? In my case, no. And there are some definitions here for those various titles and categories. I'm going to say next. Here's my current employment status. So in this case, I'm going to say that I'm employed. How many total weeks have you been unemployed? In my case, it's not applicable. Are you employed at less than full time? In my case, the answer is no. Have you been unemployed for 27 non-consecutive weeks? The answer is no. And again, for you, these answers may be different based on what your situation is. Have you been unemployed for 27 or more consecutive weeks at the time of registration? My answer again is no. And have you been looking for work during the last 4 weeks? And the answer is no, because I'm already working, obviously. I'm going to hit next. Here's your unemployment insurance status. So for anybody who is currently receiving unemployment, this is where you would put that information in here. In my case, I'm not receiving UI benefits, but again, you have several options here. Recently applied for, and there's different kinds of benefits you may be receiving based on the pandemic. So in my case, again, not receiving UI benefits would be the answer. Selective service. Have I complied with the selective service requirements? In my case, the answer is yes. Now you notice there is a category here exempt from selective service. So if that is the case for you, you can select that. And if you have not registered with selective service, you can answer no here, but at some point you will be required to register with selective service in order to get paid services through our program. So again, I'm going to say yes to this. This is my eligibility to work in the United States, so I am a U.S. citizen. I'm going to go ahead and say that. You do have options to be a non-U.S. citizen able to work. These are folks who have what's called a green card. And then you could be a non-citizen not eligible to work in the U.S. as well. So in this case, I'm a U.S. citizen. These are questions around dislocated worker status. I have not been displaced homemaker, or have a spouse on active duty, or armed forces member. So in this case, I'm going to say none of the above. Okay, so this is where it's going to be asking a question about what kind of work are you looking to find. And so in here, you can actually enter a keyword. I'm going to say in this case that I'm interested in being a retail manager. So I'm going to type retail, and it'll open several, it'll do an automatic search for different kinds of retail occupations within there. So I have salespersons, I have stockers, cashiers, salespersons, and what I'm really looking for is probably more like a retail manager. So here's a retail sales manager, first line supervisors of retail sales workers. So that sounds right for me, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that. And I'm going to say update work wanted, and this is going to enter this into my system and flag this for employers who may be looking for folks in that in that occupational category. Okay, so we have first line supervisors. It's been entered, it's been accepted, and I'm going to go ahead and say continue, and there you go. Your account registration is complete. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to the home page and show you that if you do need to make any changes after entering all the information, it's very easy to fix. So I'm going to show you where you go up to here and my profile, and it will open a page that shows all of your profile information. And so here on the left you have your name, your username. Remember, this is what I used as my actual name, so Uncle first name, Hubert last name, but here is my username, Uncle Hubert. There's the password. Now I can change that password. If I want to change it to a different password, I can just click change. Here's that release of information, which we've already done, but you can go in and change that as well. You can see here I had originally entered test@gmail.com, and normally the system will send an email to your email to verify that you've registered in Vermont JobLink. If you see this unconfirmed, what you want to do is you want to resend that confirmation to your email and make sure that you get it and reply to it, because that's what's going to activate that email account. That tells the system that that's an active email account where you can receive information, updates, job leads, job offers, all of those things that will come out of this system. So it's important to make sure that that email has been tested and confirmed. Here's your job goals and your job matching. Again, you can change this as you go. So if you decide that you're really more interested in managing in a production environment, you can go ahead and edit that. And I could say in this search button, I can say production. And we have production workers, all others. So that's a fairly large category. Go ahead and select that if I like. I can say update work wanted. It's going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to say continue. You can see it's updated over here. I'm going to say continue. We're complete again. And once again, if I go back to my profile, now I can see that my job occupation has changed to production workers. Notifications will show up here. Here's that email confirmation that was sent. Now again, it got sent to a test email, so it's never going to be found. But that's where you would find that notification as well. So that's it for creating a job seeker account in Vermont JobLink. We will have other short tutorials on how to upload a resume, how to search for jobs, and some of the other features of the program. Hopefully this helps, and thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye.